So welcome everyone. This is one of our series in our Zoom series, our Zoom Mahjong Talks, and we are thrilled to have Gregg and Woody Swain here to join us today. For pretty much, I'm sure most of you on this talk already know who Gregg and Woody are, but just in case you don't, Gregg, I'm going to read from their book. Gregg grew up in New York City, developed a love of art. She majored in art history at college and earned a doctorate in clinical psychology. She feels Mahjong combines these two interests. Intrigued by the art in the vintage sets when she learned to play in 2010, she set out to research the images. Her book, Mahjong, The Art of the Game, is the first to showcase art created by craftsmen over the last 100 years. So Gregg is also the co-author with Toby of the upcoming book, which I'm reading from, American Mahjong, American Mahjong for Everyone. And her husband, Woody, who is on the call, if you have it in not speaker view, he's right next to her. Woody is an art director and design consultant who worked for Madison Avenue ad agencies and lectured on graphic design and won awards for national and print and TV. He can honestly say his artwork is on posters that have appeared all over the world, ranging from the side of buses in Moscow to bus stops in Malawi. He designed a number of books, including Mahjong, The Art of the Game, and the current book coming out in August, the American Mahjong for Everyone. So other than just what's written on the page, those of you who know Gregg and Woody just know how magnanimous and amazingly friendly and giving the two of them are. For some reason, Woody is able to combine her passion and love of the game with grace, elegance, and knowledge to make her storytelling effortless. And what surprised Donna and I so much when we were talking with them to get ready for this is before Mahjong, she didn't like public speaking. So as we get into later, she's been, we were thrilled to host her for 3 events in Florida, and you would never guess that public speaking just wasn't something that came naturally to her. So without further ado, Donna and I would like to introduce Gregg Swain.
Hello, Woody and Gregg.
So I don't know if, are they muted?
No.
Okay.
Nope, they're not.
So
there,
Gregg,
I can't see you, just so you know. I only see a picture, so.
Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah, so I just want to let you know. Okay, there you are. You're back. Okay. So the first question we wanted to ask you, Gregg, is how were you drawn to the game of Mahjong? For those of you who haven't heard.
I think Gregg is muted. The other Gregg is not.
Yeah, the wrong Gregg.
Well, thank you, Libby. Gregg has to Woody, tell Gregg she has to unmute her.
I'll tell her to unmute herself.
Yeah, I mean, she's fine on my end, but.
For now, I think she's back.
All right, here we are. Okay,
you are.
Thank you so much for inviting us here to speak via Zoom to you all. Yeah, I got it. Thanks, honey. So it's a real treat to be here. I'm late to the game of Mahjong. I grew up in New York City where so many people were playing Mahjong. My grandmother played Mahjong with all of her friends, and everybody always just seemed to be having the best time when they were together around the Mahjong table. And I was desperate to be able to play. The problem is I couldn't find anybody to teach me. So it wasn't until 2010 when wonderful Linda Feinstein, who you interviewed a couple weeks ago, became my teacher, and it was love at first play. So anyway, that's my Mahjong story. I was just so intrigued by, I was also very intrigued by all the artwork on the tiles, because I think so many of the sets are so beautiful. But that's what drew me to the game, the happiness that people felt at the table, and then the beautiful artwork.
And then the beautiful artwork led you to the books. Could you tell us briefly just how you photographed the sets and what went into that?
Right. Maybe Woody should talk about that, photographing of the sets.
Oh, okay.
Good.
Well, I just want to say thank you for welcoming me into your world. I am not a big Mahjong player as Gregg is. I do know how to play the game, but Gregg got the idea for this book, and there was an event that happened that really got her excited. But you know, once Gregg gets an idea, if you know Gregg, she won't let it go. And we both love art. And I used to be an art director, as you heard. And I had just designed a coffee table book, a big coffee table book for a big nonprofit in New York. And this opportunity came up to, Gregg said, there's no book about art of Mahjong tiles. And as old as this game is, and as many books as there have been written on Mahjong, there was never a book about the art of these tiles. So this was a real challenge to me and us. We thought, wow, this is a terrific idea. And so Gregg was playing with Anne, and Anne knew, this is a long story about how you asked how I got into photographing these things. So Anne knew Jane Creech, who was a book rep, an agent, who just happened to be married to a terrific photographer. Gregg was married to an art director, so it was like kismet, or one of those, or like a Mickey Rooney musical, you know, like I've got the barn, you've got the, you know, it all worked out. So the stars were in alignment. And so Michelle Arnaud, a terrific photographer, agreed to do the shoot. And so Gregg, is there anything I'm leaving out? Our first.
We left out the fact that we didn't know anybody with any Mahjong collections that we were going to be able to photograph, but through the magic of the internet, I found some collectors who literally let us invade their homes, where we set up, you know, photo studios, and we photographed their collections. They were very gracious.
So just a quick question.
Gregg.
In the background, there's chirping. Could that be the interference of your mics, or maybe there's, somebody said maybe it's crickets?
Cricket, yeah.
That's,
Crickets.
we're in
It's
Vermont.
crickets.
We're live from Vermont. We had a raccoon in our yard the other day. And those are crickets. Those are crickets. I apologize.
No, Katie was right. Katie said it. So.
Katie guessed.
But Greggy, there was an incident that what really got you started to write the book. You had a Joker tile.
I bought an old bone and bamboo set, and they're the bone and bamboo sets that were made in the 1920s don't have enough tiles in them in order to play by National Mahjong League standards these days. So whoever owned the set had to find some somewhat matching tiles to use as jokers. And so when I got the set, the joker stickers were 50 or 60 years old, and, you know, much the worse for the wear. So I pulled off one of the stickers, and I got so excited because I saw a beautiful, beautiful tile underneath. It was like a portrait of a man. So I went online and I Googled, you know, Mahjong art, because I figured everything that is possible is found on, you know, Google, and there was nothing about it, which is when I really got excited, and I called Ann Israel and I said, here's an idea for a book. Do you want to do this with me? And then the rest is history. So that was the big excitement.
So then back to the shooting of this thing, we got Michelle Arnaud, and Gregg, Michelle, and Michelle's assistant and I, we found some collectors. We put a dummy together of the book with all these shots from Google that weren't ours. And we heard from some collectors. Our first shoot was at the house of Catherine Hartman in Virginia Beach, who was kind enough to let us come invade her house for 2 days. And you've got to remember, we had never seen really exotic sets except on, you know, a few sites on the internet where they'd be for sale. And Catherine didn't disappoint us at all. She and her husband, Rick, were most gracious. There are pictures of Gregg on the floor going through these sets. And Michelle and I, as an art director, my job is to, quote unquote, supervise the photographer. But, and Michelle and I didn't need to supervise him and his assistant. We both were able to intuit what I wanted, and I had to design each page in my head as we were going. We had to work fast. So our first stop was in Virginia Beach, and then we flew to London. Michelle and I, Gregg couldn't join us, we had no budget. So then Michelle and I went to Bill's house in outside of London, his beautiful home in the country, Bill Price and Pauline.
Okay, yeah.
And we shot more sets. I mean, my jaw was dropping. And, you know, Gregg was, is this a good, there was a lot of long distance calls, and we got that done. we were there for maybe 2 days and back to New York. And then Gregg and I went to Susan West's out on the coast for more stuff. And you know, it was really just an incredible treat. We ended up with a lot of images that everyone collected different things. And those are except for a few tiles that Gregg and Ann had, a few sets, those are all in the book. Most of them are in the book. So that's really how the book came to be. And then we had to put it together. And Tuttle, who's doing our second book, is terrific. They worked with us. And I'd only designed one other book. I had never designed a book like this. It's really a nightstand book. You wouldn't call it a coffee table book. And it's in its second printing. It sells very well, and it got good reviews, and that's it. So I've said enough. But it was fun to do. It really was.
We see some of those beautiful sets behind Gregg, right? Right behind you.
Yeah,
Yes.
I positioned myself so that you could see them.
Beautiful.
The bookshelf was designed as the sets.
So Gregg, once that book was out, is that what segued you into speaking engagements?
Well, yes, that's the kind of crazy thing, because, you know, we wrote the book and it was published, and then I thought, well, I'll go do some book signings. And then people said, well, wait a second, you don't just sit there and sign books, you have to give a talk. And I said, well, what do you mean I have to give a talk? I don't do talks. And so then I realized, you know, I do have a background in clinical psychology, and I said, you know, psychologist, heal thyself. So I literally started on a self-help campaign, doing talks in lots of places where I didn't feel stressed. And then I worked myself up to being able to do public speaking. Now I really like it. So I'm amazed that I can do this now, because I never, ever thought this was going to be part of my life, and I love it. And
can you just tell everyone just the two main topics that you speak on? Like when you
Yes, I do a lot of travel throughout the United States, and two of the most popular topics are how a Chinese game became a Jewish pastime, and then the other one is the culture of Mahjong around the world, because people all over the world love this game, and then they personalize it to make it their own. So it's really a lot of fun.
So I don't know if I can't see everybody who's on here, but several of the Florida, I mean, we had people come from Miami all the way to Boca Del Rey just to come hear Gregg speak. And two of the things that stood out were your anecdotes about Japanese job interviews and Chinese weddings. Do you mind sharing that?
Yes. Okay, I'd love to. In Japan, they feel very strongly that you can learn more about a candidate by watching them at the Mahjong table than you can during an interview. So all the poor interviewees are gathered around Mahjong tables, and the possible employers are off in corners watching their behavior at the table. And if they do well at the Mahjong table, then they get their job interview. So that's how they do it in Japan. And in China, the saying is never marry somebody you haven't played Mahjong with, because a lot of the personality comes out at the table. And so they often will play Mahjong at Chinese weddings. So it's a very important part of culture for many people in China. Not everybody, but for a lot of people in China.
Yeah, and I don't know if people understand, but you spoke 3 times in 24 hours for us here in Florida. We had a lunch in Boca, and we had a high tea, and then the next day you spoke at night for people that work during the day. So we really appreciated that.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And you know what's been so wonderful? I've met such wonderful people doing my talks, etc. And if not for Mahjong, I wouldn't have met you two. And it's wonderful. I've made friends all over, people who are important parts of my life. So
yeah, we feel the same way. So I know we wanted to talk about why Mahjong is good for the brain. And I know this is one of the things you wanted to talk about too.
Yes, it really is. A lot of studies have come out about how good Mahjong is. There was a study done by the University of Georgia who did their study in China, and they found that people who had dementia, if they were able to learn to play Mahjong, they improved their cognitive functioning. which is really amazing. And they found that even if they weren't playing Mahjong all the time, that improvement lingered. So Mahjong is really wonderful because you have to analyze what's going on within your own tiles and try to figure out what's happening with everybody else's hands. And then you have to look and you have to locate. So many parts of your brain are being used at the Mahjong table. And then also you socialize with people around the table. And so many studies say that being with people and socializing with them is one of the keys for successful aging. So I think that Mahjong has been a wonderful gift to me, and I'm trying to let people know everywhere how wonderful it can be to play the game. It's never too late to learn how to play, and that's what we're hoping this book can be for people who want to be able to learn how to play.
Great.
So you want to talk about your new book, right, Dara?
Yeah, we were wondering, it seems that there's been Elaine Sandberg's guide was a book that Tuttle published as well. And that seems to be a book, I think it was back in 2006 or 7, that a lot of people refer to as a guide. So when designing this book, what did you and Toby set out to do? And what was your whole thought process behind the book?
Right. Well, Elaine Sandberg's book is absolutely fabulous. Tuttle really wanted to have an updated book on how to play Mahjong, and Toby and I knew that we could do that for them. So we wanted to bring it into, this century really, and so we wanted to link it to a website where there could be additional information, but we could always have up-to-date information. It's not to take away from the National Mahjong League's website at all. It really is to link to the league, but also to answer a lot of questions that we have in the book. We have a lot of exercises and quizzes, and we want to stay up to date with all of that. We created a timeless card so that we didn't want to have a year on the card because nobody really wants to learn on an old card. So we just created our own timeless card, which is similar to what they have at the National Mahjong League. And then we also thought that people who are starting to play might not want to spend money on a set when they don't even know anything about Mahjong. So Woody designed a set of Mahjong tiles, they're paper tiles, in the back of the book that people can cut out if they want, but also they can go to the website and we've got some PDFs and people can print up the cards, the tiles and the card on harder stock, on more durable stock, if they want to be playing and practicing a lot at home until they feel that they want to go out and play with other people with the National Mahjong League card.
It's funny, we have a comment from Libby Ship, and she said, we all want to create our own hands and card.
Yes. You know what, Libby, it's harder than you think. I'm here to tell you.
Well, can I say something, Dara and Donna? Sure. You can send in hands to the league, and we consider them for the new cards.
This is Joy speaking.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was eating dinner, so I didn't put my face on. But yeah, you can send in hands that you'd like to see on the card, and we definitely consider them. We love when,
like that. That's interesting.
When members send in suggestions. Barney knows that. Barney sends in suggestions all the time. And we definitely take them into consideration. So please send us. And in fact, any day now, the league is going to be open. So, keep that in mind as well.
And just for, with Joy chiming in, if anybody has any issues with not receiving any cards, they did finally release their email address. So it's customer service, and I think it's at nationalmahjongleague.com. It's actually on our Facebook page, but I'm looking to see right now if I could catch it. But that's if you haven't received your pre-ordered card or your ordered card, they're now answering emails since they're working from home.
So before we move on to the book, which by the way is A Beginner's Guide to American Mahjong, right? Oh no, that's no. American Mahjong for Everybody is the new and updated by Gregg and Toby. When is that going to be released to the public?
August 25th, but I gather some people who ordered from independent booksellers already got copies, so that's pretty nice.
Right.
And you're having a kickoff for the book.
Yes, we are going to have a book launch via Zoom. I've got to really learn how to handle a big audience on Zoom. But anyway, that's going to be August 25th at 6 o'clock East Coast, 3 o'clock West Coast. And Carrie
You have a lovely
going
host,
to be
a lovely interviewer. Hi, Carrie.
So we have a question, maybe for Joy. Is email the best way to submit hand suggestions to the league? I would assume so, but
You could write them. They take, handwritten letters. And I know in the past, they really didn't give out their email freely, so they might appreciate handwritten more than email.
Yeah, I'm the one who takes the suggestions, and that's not my email because I don't have an email.
right.
So if you write to the league, it comes to me. So or call. As soon as the lines are open, which should be in a week or two, if you call on a Tuesday or Thursday, you'll get me, and you can tell me over the phone if you'd like.
Okay, thank you, Joy.
But I have a question for Gregg. I was on a call with, of course, my brain goes dead. Who wrote the book with you? I mean,
Toby.
I have
Toby.
beach brain. Toby, of course, Toby. And a question was asked to her, and I know the answer, but I think the people on the call might like to hear the answer. A lot of people wanted you or Toby or both of you to sign the book. And since we're in the middle of COVID, you can't do that. So they asked how they could get the book signed.
I'm so glad that you asked that, George, because we've already worked it out. Woody did a beautiful book plate. There's part of the book that is called G&T time, and it's just kind of like Gregg and Toby time, but it also made me laugh because it's like gin and tonic time, but I don't drink gin and tonics. But anyway, so Woody did a nice book plate based on a drawing that he did of Toby and me. And we are getting the book plates. I'm going to sign all like 400 or 500 of them, send them to Toby, who will sign. Some of them send hers back to me so that we each will have signed book plates signed by both of us. And then we'll be able to send them out to people who want signed book plates for their book.
Oh, that's wonderful. We lost visual on Woody, just so you know. I don't know if that was on purpose, but we can't see Woody anymore.
What's that?
I don't. Okay.
Oh, whoops. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have my cheat sheet up here.
Oh, there
There we go.
there you are.
Sorry. I'm hiding now.
So we know the book is geared
the book
towards
is
beginner players. Are there any strategy tips for new players that are looking to up their game or increase their speed?
Right. Well, for new players, I think it's just really important to become familiar with the card. And so, they should really put out all the hands. That's something that everybody should do anytime there's a new card. But people really just need to be familiar with everything that's on the card, number one. I think that there are some wonderful ways that you don't have to feel embarrassed about how long it's taking you to play. And some of them are on mahjong.net or the National Mahjong League. I don't know if the National Mahjong League has robots, but on mahjong.net and on realmahjong.com, people can play against robots. And so they can take as long as they want to become familiar with things. But that's really not going to help if you're really trying to up your game when you're playing with people and you need to be faster. So Michelle Frizzell has some wonderful videos telling people how to play basically 4 hands at once. And I always recommend that people see what they've been dealt and write down how many tiles they have going toward a hand, and then see at the end of the Charleston if all of their hands have improved. And so that's a way to really kind of help yourself think about a lot of different hands at the same time. And then you play the game, and it's really very good for the brain. But, just really try to play faster. Just if you're playing with a group and you're thinking about going into a tournament, see if you can play a game in 12 minutes, because it's really like playing tennis with a better player. You really have to just make yourself be faster. I know I played with some expert players a few years ago, and I was I really had to play really quickly, and I was delighted at the end of the game when I was only one tile away from winning. But trust me, I would never have played at that whiplash speed, but it was a lot of fun.
That's great.
So we talked earlier, but we don't want to ask you how many Mahjong sets you do have. We would never ask that. But we hear that you're now interested in collecting, what did you call them, one-offs or one-of-a-kind sets. So it'd be interesting for people to hear about that.
Right. The Ricci Reporter did an article. The Ricci Reporter did an article about some of those sets, and I think you all said that you could put a link to that online.
Right now,
but
I
really
to my screen, it'll show. Yeah.
Okay. I really love sets that were made with love. And there are a number of sets out there that were made for people in the family. So sometimes people who really couldn't afford sets might make sets for their families. So I have sets just on some simple little pieces of wood that somebody painted. I have a lot of sets that have been just painted. Sometimes it really looks like the family has been involved in making it, and the children have done some dragons, which are just so charming, and I just can't stand it. They're just adorable. But
yeah, we're sharing
I love these sets that were
now.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, yes, I see that. Okay. So I love that. And I also, so in addition to loving sets that were made for families, I love the fact that a lot of these vintage sets have history, and we'll really never know what the history of those sets are. But I just love the history thing. I just wanted to show you, I mean, I bought this set, and I bought it because, can you see these?
If you put it even closer, that'd be great.
Oh, can you see it now? Okay, I bought this tile set because there was a one bam that went missing, and somebody in the family cared enough to carve another one bam so they could all keep playing Mahjong. So, I mean, stories like that, we'll never really know what happened, but I really just love sets with some, you know, interesting history, and I love thinking about who played with them, and really the joy that they got when making the sets and then when playing with them. That just makes me feel happy.
So we kind of touched on this in the beginning about the friends you've made and things. And when we were talking, when me and Donna and you and Woody were talking, you were saying how Mahjong has just impacted and changed both of your lives in so many ways. Can you expand on that?
Well, I mean, given that I really couldn't speak in public at all, that's pretty amazing to me. But, you know, to have a book in the Library of Congress is very exciting. But it just really is the friendships. And so I've made so many friends by teaching. And I have to say, if you ever go into a new community and you don't know anybody, just teach Mahjong and you'll have friends before you know it. But it just is really miraculous at how these communities form around the Mahjong table, and you have people who don't know each other, and then all of a sudden they become a fast group of friends, and it's really somewhat of a miracle, I think. And so that's been a wonderful thing for me. And I know during these stressful times, when we all are worried about so many things, you just go to the Mahjong table and you're suddenly not worried about all the things you were worried about. You're just worried about what's she doing over there, and if I throw this 8 bam now, is he going to pick it up? So it's those little worries in life that are easier to deal with than the bigger worries. And so that's been wonderful. So it's been creating communities, getting communities for myself, and then just having this work where I get to fly all over and meet new wonderful people.
Woody, how has it impacted your life?
Oh, not at all. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding, of course. I never imagined in a million years that Mahjong would enter my life. I had heard of the game, but now Gregg travels around the country, and if I'm lucky, I get to go with her. And I tell my unbelieving friends, I'm not making this up. I mean, I can't make this up. I'm of a certain age and I should be settling down by now. But I'm very proud. I got to tell you, just meeting all of you, I really, you know, I was in advertising, and I love the creative process. And I'm very proud of what Gregg and I have accomplished. And I'm glad that maybe these books change people's perceptions of the game and even changed their life. And I loved Barney. I'm your #1 fan. Last week, you said that photo spread in our first book changed your life in that it got you to collecting. And I remember shooting that, doing that shout out on the West Coast. I saw the blue tiles, the blue coins, and the complement of blue, as Barney probably knows, is orange. And Susan had these wonderful enrobed tiles that were orange. And I got a blotter from the Fairmont Hotel, and I took it over to there. And, you know, Michelle, we put it together, and that is one of the best things in the book. But my point is, I love it. Yeah. And it was an orange. Yeah. Barney's favorite color is orange. But that's what I love about helping Gregg. I love, it's exciting for me, really, as my being in the subway of New York and seeing someone see an ad I did in the New York Times. Well, remember reading in subways in New York. But anyway, you know, or seeing people look at a billboard I did on wherever it is, on the Sunset Strip or whatever, or a commercial I did on TV, and people reacting to it. That's what Mahjong, I mean, Mahjong is truly amazing all around to me. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. And it really changed my life. These 2 books took thousands of hours to do. And the second book that's coming out is one of the hardest projects I've ever had to do. So it keeps you on your toes, and certainly does impact your life, or my life, and Gregg's, of course. So.
Well, okay, so Dara answered because Diane came late to the meeting. What's the name of the book, and where can I buy it? So Dara just messaged everybody.
Thank you. And then above that, Helen was asking if you would share, Gregg, where do you find the sets that you collect?
Most people don't share.
I know. If you would share.
Well, you know, it used to be so much easier to find sets than it is now. I think, you know, I think Mahjong, the art of the game, made people pay attention to how beautiful these Mahjong sets are. So it's a lot harder to find them. But I always just tell people, if you go into an antique mall, just literally open every box. I mean, that's what I tell people, because I mean, I found one of my favorite sets I found just going to an antique shop, and there was a funny looking box, and I opened it. So, and then I found one of my favorite sets. So it just is, just keep on the lookout, go, you know, to garage sales, go look around. But the big things like live auctioneers and Invaluable and even eBay, I mean, everybody's looking at those places. So unless you're there at the right time to press like buy now, you're probably not going to be able to get it. But it's more of the quirky things, the little garage sales and opening dusty boxes in antique stores. That's how you're going to find something. And what's really interesting, I saw Toby, I'm not sure where I read it, I think in one of her, something that she wrote, her advice is to leave fulfilling the rest of the rare sets to the professionals and buy a complete set. That unless you know someone or know that this is not a hard set to complete, that if it only has 140 something tiles, that you might be stuck with a set that you know, unless you learn a different style that you can't use. So I thought that was interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way.
So,
it's
Dara,
so
what's
true. I mean, the thing about the set. Pardon?
What's the town near Ocala, Dara? I am losing my mind. There's antique. It's all about antiques. It's not Ocala, but it's in Florida, outside of Orlando.
Oh.
And what did?
I can't think of the name of the.
So we went to a bunch of antique malls, and you walk in, do you have any Mahjong set? They sell out the minute they open the door. He said, that goes out the door. You have to be waiting, and you have to be here.
Oh, Mount Dora.
Mount Dora. That's what it is. Mount Dora, Florida has a bunch of antique malls. And it was amazing. The man was saying how popular the sets are becoming.
There are some of the big antique fairs. There's one up here, I think it's Brimfield. it's in Massachusetts, and it's all these antique people from all over, and they just have booths all around along the road and into the fields and everything. I mean, people have been able to get some good luck at those places. One collector and his wife, Alan and Lila, Alan White's, yeah. So they have T-shirts made up looking for Mahjong sets. So then they walk all over the fair, and you know they're noticeable. So if somebody's got a Mahjong set, they'll be sure to show it to Alan and Lila.
Well, I don't know if this happens at all places, but I was walking around one little antique mall, and I asked at the front, we're all individual keys owned, and I asked at the front, and he said, "Oh, I think so-and-so Grace has one," and he called her, and she kind of looked me up and down. I think she only wanted to sell it to someone that was going to play. She did not want to sell it to someone that was there to resell it. And it was so interesting because she was like quizzing me, and she didn't play, but she knew that, and then she parted with it once I answered her question satisfactorily. So it was interesting that she had a one. It wasn't hers. She got it from someone else. So maybe that was their request, that it goes to someone that uses it.
Right.
And you should also share your story, Dara.
Say it again?
You should also share your story about the man who's doing work around your house.
So this is great. There's someone that during quarantine, I had a bunch of stuff to get fixed in the house, but that I didn't do. But he was out of a job because his job was quarantined. So I had a bunch of stuff to do outside. So now this teeny little project turned into this whole little waterfall in the front of the house. But one day he saw me bringing things in that we were selling and doing things. He said, "What's that?" I said, "My friend and I have a Mahjong business." He said, "Oh, my mom plays that, but she doesn't play anymore. Would you like her set?" And I said, "No, I don't want to take that. What if your kids, you want it? No. And my favorite part about the set is that I wish I had it here. It came with a teeny little spiral notebook that was tie-dyed from like 1982. And it was their better list. And it was Grace and Dorothy, and it was all names crossed off. And I just love seeing, you know, this little, I don't know if that's considered ephemera, but just the little things that go along with the Mahjong set. I just love that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I
can
think,
see why people feel emotional. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Sarah Jessica Parker had an Instagram post, and she had, you know, in her way of speaking, she showed the tiles of her new vintage set, and she said, "Oh, if these tiles could talk."
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, I love the history of the tiles.
So we have a question from John Davis. What rule or advice did you and Toby grapple with when writing the book, I guess?
I don't think we really, I think that we didn't worry. Oh, well, yeah, there was a rule that we had trouble with. Yeah. But that rule shall go unnamed. So
I just want to, when Gregg goes into an antique store and looks for Mahjong, it's like, well, a woman buying shoes to the 10th power. If there's anything around, she will count every tile, you know, puts it out, and a lot of times they don't know what a Mahjong set is. It's been in their store for a long time.
Right.
And Gregg will count each tile out, and she usually has a friend by the end of the shopping thing, and she's told them everything they need to know about Mahjong. It's
when I was shopping, the woman was helping me sort the tiles. She didn't even know what they were, but she could tell whether she was helping me sort them and put them together to make sure the set was complete. It was great.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And then
I think there's just such an emotional thing about. There's just such an emotional thing about Mahjong sets, and I know that Carol Ann Harper, who's known as Charlie, who designs beautiful stickers, has an incredible website with her incredible collection on it. And she always talks about sets that have been adopted. Nothing is ever sold. There are always sets that have been adopted. And I really think that's true, because you really want things to go to the right home. And because there's a lot of emotion connected with the sets. All these tiny vintage tiles have provided hundreds or thousands of hours of happiness to the people who've been playing with these vintage sets. And so that's a lot of happiness, and you just want it to go to the right place.
That's very nice. I've heard several people say that. That's a very nice way to put it, you know. So do we have any other questions from anybody? So there were no rules, there was no National Mahjong League rules that you and Toby discussed heatedly, or that you didn't agree on?
There's a rule that I don't happen to like very much, but I'm trying to get over it unless they change it. I don't, okay. I wish that we could go back to the rule where if two people want the tile, that the next person in order can get that tile. And I know that, you know, I know that there are some bad parts of that, but I just think it does help to keep the game on a nice, even keel and prevents arguments. I've never seen an argument, but I would imagine that it could be a problem. And that's the one rule that I wish. We wrote the book, and I was kind of hoping when we wrote the book that that wasn't going to have to be the rule. So we're addressing it right now.
Sent in, Donna and I, through Mahjong Community, through our Facebook group, we sent in a petition for it to change. But
right, I know a number of people have. I know Michelle Frizzell did, you know, has been concerned, and I just think, you know, I mean, let's be honest. Right now, the age of people who are playing Mahjong doesn't, you know, is not skewing to the senior level. I mean, we seniors can be a lot slower than some of the young people. I mean, if I played Mahjong against teenagers, it's, you know, whiplash once again. But, you know, sometimes people are a little bit slower, and I just think it kind of might make them feel sad if they're losing to somebody who just is exposing the tiles right away. So now, John Davis, you've gotten me in big trouble. Big trouble, John Davis.
we have a very interesting observation from Andrew. He wants to know why all the Maj mavens have traditionally male names like Greg, Johnny, Toby, Charlie. So I can't remember.
I know, isn't that funny?
There was a TV show on years ago, and I think all the daughters were like Frankie, and like it was all male names. I forgot what, and the father, it's not that he wanted boys, but he wanted them to be strong and give them male names. It was just a gender stereotype.
Right. I know, it is funny. It is very, very funny.
He said he was sorry.
Yeah, John Davis says, so sorry.
And Maureen agrees that the rule can create an unfriendly game.
You, John. I was just teasing you, John.
So we have any,
so, but, you know,
open it up to questions. If anyone has questions, you could type it in the chat room, or you can raise your hand. Oh, Dara, somebody answered. Oh,
yeah, that's a current show. Yes, that's a great show. That's a current show, but I'm talking.
You have to read it out because no one can see it but us.
Oh, I think everybody. You wrote that to everybody.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah. Diane wants to know any suggestions for teaching on Zoom.
You know, I've tried it a few times. What I've done is I've been on Real Mahjong with just one person, so we're playing with robots. And then sometimes, well, I've done it actually a few times. People have texted me or taken photos of what they've got when they're asking for help. But it is really hard. It's hard. The easiest thing to do is if you're playing with somebody against robots, you say, you know, what hand do you think they're playing? Look at what they've got exposed, etc. But it is hard. It is a real challenge. I wish it were easier. I wish that some of the websites like Real Mahjong or Mahjong.net would allow for a teacher to see everybody's tiles. But
would you be able to share your screen? I mean, we could help you figure out like how we did today where I shared that. You could be sharing your screen while you're playing Real Mahjong so they could see what you have on your screen while you're playing.
Right. Well, I usually just tell them what I've got, or I send them photos or whatever, but I can't really share the screen because it's not on Zoom. That's the issue.
I'm saying to have both things open at the same time. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. This is now very technologically advanced. I'll try to work on that one.
We find a lot of people's children or grandchildren are helping them with Zoom, get on Zoom and help. So it's very interesting. But it's a great way to connect, as you see. I mean, these are your friends, these are your fans, you know, and it's really nice. You know, I don't even get to see Dara. I mean, I can walk to Dara's house almost, but it's too hot here. But we don't see each other either, you know. So, yeah.
Zoom has saved us. It really has.
Oh, wait, I see John Davis now. John's on. Hello, John.
So Sandy does that. She plays on Mahjong.net and Zooms at the same time, so they see each other and hear the tiles being played.
Yeah, that's what I do with some people. We just have conference calls on, you know, the iPhone, and then we play on the computer, and then the Zoom on one like an iPhone or an iPad, and then playing on the computer. It does get all kind of involved, but it does make me feel better that I'm at least connecting with people and being able to see them. It's really saved me.
Mm-hmm. So Dara and I have a friend that we normally have a Tuesday game that we play with, and she keeps bragging about how many points she has on real Mahjong. She must play 4 to 5 hours a day every single day, right, Dara? I mean,
and she plays with her mom, and she roped her son into playing.
Yeah, her 20-year-old son who's home from college now playing.
Yeah.
Right.
But she has a very
well. I have to say that Gladys's Siamese Mahjong, and you know, John Davis is very involved with that too. I think it's really helped save a lot of people because it's given, you know, couples something to do together, and you know, and allows everybody to play Mahjong. And if one partner doesn't play the game, there's always hope that you can teach that person to play the game, and then you can both play
Andrew,
Siamese
for those of you,
together.
sorry to interrupt, Andrew's showing his
Very
Siamese game.
Yeah.
Andrew's showing a picture, right, of him playing outside Siamese. Very nice.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
So that's been wonderful. Yeah.
I mean, when we met Gladys at one of her tournaments there, right, in Sarasota, I believe she said she created Siamese because a friend's mother was in the hospital and the daughter.
Oh, no, she was on a cruise and somebody wanted to learn how to play. And she was not, I think she was there to check out a tournament on the cruise. And they said, oh, by the way, there's sets in the room if you want to go. And when she went in, there was a whole table of 4 and then a 5th person that wanted to learn. So she said, okay, come here. We'll both take 2 racks and we'll learn I'll teach you. And when she left, she went back and said, I couldn't sleep. And I thought, wait a second, this could be something. People could pay, you know, 2 racks at a time. Yeah. And then she wrote up the rules. And now it's been just such a savior to a lot of people who are able to get games going.
Right.
Sarah's husband's playing. My husband, well, he can't handle, I don't know, he can't get it. It's very frustrated. What's that tile? I don't get it. So.
Well, I think, David was first complaining because he just didn't understand the whole one band being a bird. That just threw him for a while. And I think he finally got over that now he's accepted that. Andrew thinks finding a great way to learn the card, and for new players, once they get the hang of the game and they will get a chance to try singles and pairs and quints. Very good point. They get to try singles and pairs and quints that they normally would not try because you have double the amount of tiles, so you have more flexibility in choosing hands. And something about the 2020 card this year that I've noticed, maybe just because I've been playing online, but I feel like it's been, a lot of people are saying they don't like the card. I feel like until you commit on this card, it's a much more flexible card. Maybe once you start exposing, it's not as flexible, but until you commit, if you're playing a singles and pairs and you start getting jokers, there's a corresponding hand I find more than in past hands. And I find there's a lot of hands that maybe have only 2 or 3 tiles difference. Like the flower 4, 5, 6 is very similar to the flower 4, 6, 24. And then there's some the winds hands that the only difference is the 2020 or the dragons. So I find that there seems to be a lot of flexibility in the card. Oh, John Davis agrees. Sure. Oh, so Marcia uses WhatsApp while playing on Real Mahjong to hear and see it. And then this is something that we mentioned in our call with Barney last week. Donna mentioned, oh, hi, Teddy. Barney mentioned last week that he plays on House Party, they talk. So Donna was just giving everyone a warning that if you do House Party, make sure you lock it, because otherwise people could just jump in and interrupt your conversation while you're playing. So.
We had a request to see my dog, so here's Teddy.
I am not even going to try to get mine because they will not start barking until the end of the call.
Right, mine is in another room, hopefully not barking.
Now, if I was on a phone right now, they would be barking the whole time. But the fact that it's the computer, they're quiet. But the second I pick up my phone and answer a call, they start barking. So Andrew
Julie was barking.
Andrew loves giving jokes to Barney. It's always a house party when Barney is playing. And John agrees the card is much more flexible. So we're getting towards the end of our talk time. If anybody has any questions they want to ask, or if they want any more information.
I was wondering, I mean, I don't know if Joy can answer, but they usually start working on the new card when? In August? Or so what's going to happen for next year's card? I was just curious if anybody knew what's going to be happening.
I was wondering if they would start playing the practice hands, like can they talk to real Mahjong or something instead of the hands they're testing out.
We're starting to work on the new card the day after Labor Day.
Oh,
Okay.
And Sigma Software, who makes the, the online game for the National Mahjong League, will be working with us so that we can do it remotely.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So
terrific.
I'm going to see if I could share my screen. So this is, we are inviting everyone. We're hosting our second virtual tournament, and it is September 10th through the 13th. It could be on any game, the National Mahjong League game, Mahjong, Mahjong Time, or Real Mahjong. And there's two different options. You could do the 16 total game or the 32 game. And then we also want to share that we are having a Modern Mahjong Zoom Trivia Night. So everybody could test their knowledge of all things Mahjong. So that's September 9th. Before that, we have next week, we have our Zoom call with Linda Fisher. And those of you who don't know who Linda is, she is a New York City Mahjong player who Brian Park approached and asked if she wanted to do open days of play as well as marathons. And it's amazing because when Donna and I were in New York, we met a woman named Vivian, and also that lived in New York. And then the other woman was from Australia.
Yep.
And she teaches people that are new, or she sets people up to play at a foursome. And it was so popular that pre-COVID, they actually gave her space in the Overlook at Bryant Park to play during the winter time. So that was something that was next week. We're going to be talking to Linda. And then the week after, we have Gregg's co-author, Toby joining us. So, and then Lisa wanted to thank Gregg and Woody. I absolutely think your art is the best art ever. Hope you can take care of those crickets and computer bandwidth. I'm looking forward to it. That's great.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, say hi. There's
Hi.
So
Bye.
Wonderful.
We're so happy you're a man that Maj. We're very impressed.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
So,
you.
Greg,
I can ask everyone to unmute. Everyone can unmute and say goodbye. And
okay, thank you both so much. It's been lovely. Best of luck with everything.
Hi, Greg.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
It was
Dara.
good.
It was really good.
Thank
you, Woody.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
It was fun seeing you guys. All right.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Hi.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.
Are still not able to come into a store.